Hello, hello, hello. And give me just a moment here. Okay, and boop. Good evening. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, right down here there's the whole like, subscribe, bell icon. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Anycubic photons, easy mode for printing minis. You know. Yay. Okay. Now, I know down there it says recreation, not recreation, recreation. That's right, tonight I'm going to be recreating one of the minis that I sculpted way back early on in the show. And once I get a few more people in here, I'll get into more detail about it. I'll also show off a few things that I've finished. As it is, I have a kitty that's apparently just deciding to screech. Beep, beep. And the Marvel version of a certain famous song nowadays. Tony Stark, do 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 do. Tony Stark, do 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 do. Anyway. Hey, baby girl. Hey. Yeah. That's what happens when you raise your cats right. Yes, you heard me right. I said that's what happens when you raise your cats right. Okay, so we have things occurring. Why is this book down there? It's back over here. I'll get it in a little bit. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, still nobody watching. Gotta wait for some. It's probably a little early. I mean, it's 7:59. Aha! Aha, peoples. Welcome. Now, like I said, what I'm going to be doing today is, first of all, plugging in my tablet, because I forgot to do that apparently. I'm going to be recreating one of the figures from earlier this year, shortly after I first started doing the show. In episode 19, I created a figure based on the character I play in D&D right now. Valandar the Red, and just to show you the final print in resin and painted, this is Valandar. Or at least a version of Valandar. Now, hello Mark. Tonight, I'm going to be recreating him. And one of the things about that is, it also means I'm going to have to kind of sculpt a bit on one of the weapons before I bring it in. Actually, I better do it to both before I bring it in to Dad's studio. And so the way I'm going to do this is very simple. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to hide him. And then I'm going to pop over. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to start off we need first the Kriegsmesser right hand, which is right here. And what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to rotate it .45 degrees. Okay. I'm going to export this. And no, not in my Titans. Broadcast miniatures, no. This will be Valen Sword. Oh, Valen Big Sword. Accept. And then delete it. Making sure I don't have the figure selected. I'm then going to come in and I need the Celtic Short Sword. Left hand. And this one is going to also be rotated, but this one -45. File, export, Valen Small Sword, accept, delete, and once again return to here. And I just realized I forgot to open 3D Studio Max, so we're gonna start 3D Studio Max. It's gonna take a few minutes to fully load because it is an old program. Well, he wasn't a bad figure to begin with. I'd already started on doing the cloth wrinkles and that, and I will admit the chainmail came out a bit too fine. I mean, even resin printing, it came out to barely more than a salmon skin look. So doing the new techniques. Now the thing is, he also won't be wearing exactly the same outfit. That outfit dates to an actual set of garb I used to wear and doing LARP, even down to the actual colors. I had a red short sleeve tunic, a chainmail birnie, which is basically like a sleeveless t-shirt that had dags on the bottom, gray tabard that I actually on the actual one had coat of arms on it, this coat of arms to be exact, and of course the boots. And on this figure I did not give him actual pants. I left the legs as they were so that they could pretend to be pants. I did not have metal bracers, I had leather bracers, but I also had a cloak that this character does not. And yes, my hair was long enough to put into a ponytail back then. Yeah. The reason I'm opening up 3D Studio Max is one aspect of the larger sword that the character's sword, the way I originally designed it, did not have. Okay? And what that is it's called the nail. It's the piece that comes off the side and curves down. Like I said, Valendar's sword, Thunder's Edge, yes, did not have that. Okay, let's go ahead and pop into here, file, import, 3D printing home, meshes, resculpt minis, broadcast miniatures, new, Valen Big Sword, import. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to select this, detach. Then, oh, wrong one. I don't want to do that, I want to do this. Okay, and delete. And just so I know where the X needs to be, that will be 16.536. Okay, and then copy. First of all, let's go ahead and select all of these and make the base color blue. It's easier to see when I have it selected. Attach. There. Then I select all of these. And, well, okay. Now, I've noticed that this one centers that. Now this, we need to go ahead and do the same thing here. We need to attach. Okay. $16 536. Okay, there we go. That's kind of centered it. Now, I'm going to select this file, export selected, and this is going to be Wavefront OBJ, Alan Big Sword. Save. Yes. Export. I shouldn't need anything else from Max, but I'm leaving it open just in case, and popping over here. Now we're going to Free Sculpt Minis, Broadcast Miniatures, New, Alan Big Sword. And I'm going to pull it in like that. Frame. X. We're going to be doing this symmetrically, because we almost have to properly do it. Okay. Now, one of the first things that I'm going to do is here it is. Get the tablet. I have it ready for what I'm about to do. Also poke into chat. Okay, nobody knew. Well, somebody knew, because it's up to 7 people watching. Alright, one of the first things I'm going to do is the way that this, the original version was done, is that it was made to be, well, first let me go ahead and geometry and subdivide it a couple times. And then Dynamesh at 512. Not enough, because it's move selected, move topological. Yeah, okay. Now we're going to Dynamesh at 1024. Alright, now with move, okay, we're going to tilt it just a little. Grab it in the center and move like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to smooth it out a bit here. And okay. What that's for is, you'll see in a second. Now this one, we're going to do kind of the opposite. Because what we got to do here, whoops, . And then inflate. Okay, the reason for this is the original version of this sword looked like an eagle at this point, or a falcon, or a bird of some kind, and obviously the pommel here looked like the head. The blade edge crossguard looked like the talons. And the back edge looked like the tail. So now let's go back to inflate. Let's shrink this. Okay. And down here. And then finally, let's get the move tool back open. And so we want it to be kind of large so that we can, or let's make it move topological, so that we can just grab it on the sides here and drag out to spread to become the bird-like tail. Now, we're going down here and we're going to smooth out this part. And then use inflate, turn down a bit, and kind of restore the size here. And shrink this, and we're basically getting the basic shape down for the figure. Now we're going to smooth out the top side of this. And then make it really big. Choose Polish Z sub, and okay, now we're going to shrink it and bring it in. I'm going to smooth it out here and here. Okay, frame out a bit more. Okay, we're going to need to now, under masking, we're just gonna blur the whole boatload. And then inverse, deformation, size on X. screw that. Let's go ahead and get rid of the polish, because the polish did horribly. Yeah. Let's see what happens if I make it just a little bit bigger. Polish it like this. Yeah, here we go. Alright. That's good. That keeps it with some size. Then we shrink this and smooth here. Okay, there we go. Now, we go back up to geometry. We're going to Dynamesh it at 124 again. And smooth out these areas here. Then, it's time to do the head. Okay, with a move. Move, 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 move. Let's kind of get down there. Because we want this to be the beak. We don't want it to look like a flamingo, so we got to be careful and yeah. Now make it a bit bigger. Grab the back of the head, pull it out a bit. Grab the top, pull it up. And select down here. Then we're going to blur the masking a bit. Invert it. And inflate just the head. Just to give it a bit more of a thickness there. Okay. Now we shrink the mouse and blur it. The only other thing to add, we need to use the move tool to kind of bring this in. And then we're going to use the Orb Cracks 2 brush, shrinking it down a bit, to outline where the eyes are. That's too big. The groove was too small and the eye too big. Okay, now we're going to inflate that eye right here. So we're going to increase the intensity. Go back to move. We're going to give it a bit of a more of a griffin-like. There we go. So for right now, until it's time to actually do the final sculpting on the figure, that's what the main sword is going to look like. So we're going to export this as Valen Big Sword. Okay, then we're going to import Valen Small Sword. And once again, we're going to subdivide it a few times. And then Dynamesh it at 1024. Okay, now. Do I still have this on? Oh, hell. Yeah, that's right. I gotta start this over again. Pardon me for this. I'm gonna pop back into here. There's a weird reason why, and it involves recentering the daggum. Let me make sure let me see if I can do this deformation. Geometry. Nah, it's easier just to go ahead and don't save changes and restart ZBrush. So anyway, well, I use the tablet in almost every one. It's just that it's usually in my lap. Alright, and then, yeah, like I said, restarting ZBrush so I can sculpt in. With the short sword, I'm going to not just need X symmetry, I'm also going to need, well, from our point of view, Z symmetry, but it would be Y symmetry, I believe. Well, it's a matter of just practice. That's the whole point of tonight's show, is I did the original version of this 6 months ago. And I'm going to show that in just 6 months, I've been able to do this much better. And let me go ahead, document new. Import, Valen small sword. Draw it in. And then transform Y. Yep. Now geometry, divide. Dynamesh 1024. Dynamesh. Excellent. I'm going to subdivide it once more, however. Now what's going to happen, I'm going to go ahead and smooth out here. Simply because, well, let me shrink that. Simply because, number one, it might be hidden, but it's a good habit to smooth out any seams. Now the next thing is, I'm going to be using the snake hook, a much thicker snake hook, grabbing at the center here, and pulling it down like this, then smoothing out this edge of it. Reason being is because this becomes a talon, or a faked talon, actually. The next thing is, let me make sure, yeah, we are going to clip that. Oh. And actually, we're also going to go ahead and do it okay, excellent. That's exactly what I wanted to see. And then we're going to use Smart Resim under deformation, but on Y. Analyzing mesh symmetry. What it's going to do is, I didn't get a perfect cut to remove that little cone on the back of the short sword. So it's going. It was off center. It was more on one side than the other. So it's going to use smart resymmetry to reshape them to be symmetrical. Because the next part kind of depends on it. Because I'll be doing to the pommel what I did to the crossguard, and that's pulling out the claw-like shapes. It's going to take a few. In fact, it's going to take long enough that I might as well go ahead and pop back in here while I'm waiting. And just sit and shoot the breeze with you. Now, am I getting robotic because of the processor use? This might take a couple minutes because it is a high polygon model. And I'm an idiot. Wait for the program to respond. I don't believe I just did that. Yeah. Let's go ahead and crash ZBrush, why don't we? Yay. Alright, let's reopen ZBrush. What a shock. Oh. Last night, we had a pretty heavy thunderstorm come through Memphis. Our power flickered twice. Once long enough to reset the cable box in the living room. Thank God I had a UPS because I was printing these. I still have a lot of support material to take off, but I had them set like that on the bed. Oh, so smooth first layers. Yay. These are the standing stones that come with the Basafon. And to give you an idea on scale, let's break out first. Oh look, it's Cormoran, the last of the giants I had to make. Huh? And then, let's say, the guy we're replacing today, Elendar. Whew. He easily fits in there. So they're pretty decent sized. But yeah, they finished properly, as you can tell, with all sorts of funky surface rocky details. Whoop. Don't knock stuff over, Bill. Okay. Well, ZBrush is back open. Let's see, did it show up in my... no, it didn't. Okay. So, hide this. Import. Mountain small sword. Transform. Activate symmetry. X. Y. Frame. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to use Polygroups auto group. Now, I can just hide that. Geometry. Modify topology, delete hidden. There. I don't have that anymore. I can now subdivide it a few times. And while I'm at it, I'm going to smooth that just a little. Oh, too big. No. Yeah, there we go. Okay, there we go. Alright. And then we're going to Dynamesh it. Actually, let's hold off on the Dynameshing. Let's wait until we're ready. Snake hook. Too big. There we go. That's our initial talons, and we're going to do it over. We're going to inflate. Let's go ahead and hit that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just to make it a little bit bigger. Then move. Pull it down a bit just so that it's not quite as large a gap that we're going to be filling. And then snake hook. Okay. Now, we're going to Dynamesh it now. And smooth out the handle area here. And this area right here, we're going to first inflate it. Come on. There we go. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to inflate. How we got to inflate? Shrink it down a bit. We're going to inflate up here and along here, just for the sake of making sure it's thick enough to print. Then we're going to smooth it all out with relax. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here, but more significantly, because this being larger really needs to carry that look. Then we're going back to snake hook. We're going to shrink it down quite a bit and just kind of pull just the tip to kind of sharpen it a little. Okay, we want to sell the look of it being a talon, you know. Okay, and that's the handguard. Now it's time for what we're going to do with the blade. And what we're going to do with it, this is actually probably the best use for this I've had. This particular brush, because it fits how this thing looks so well. And all I do, first make sure I've got the intensity and the draw size right, and then the direction. Yes, perfect. However, because of FDM, let's go ahead and make fewer cross sections. It's so much easier to do it with this. Okay, that's a small problem. Make it bigger and not quite as deep. The idea was that these two swords, each one of them was a magic sword. Each one of them had different abilities. For those familiar with D&D, the short sword, his left-handed sword, was a flame tongue. It was made... Now we're going to use... where is it? Orb cracks, subtract. We're going to make it bigger. And make sure that we've got stroke going. Okay. Anyway. Dragon's tail was called that because it was made from the tail spike of a rather large dragon. Okay. There we go. And now I'm going to put this up just for a moment while I do stuff that doesn't require this. We are now going to, once again, Dynamesh. Then, something I forgot to do with the other one. We're going to subdivide it. We're going to decimate it, rather. Okay. Alright, then we're going to import Big Sword again. And we're going to decimate it. Let me zoom out. What do you want, cat? No. Let's straighten this up. Okay. Come on. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, and that's it. Proper number. Okay, so we're going to export this. And then we're going to document... New document. No, I don't want to save changes. Oh, document, new document. And then I'm going to pop back. I'm sorry. I must heavily apologize. I did it again. It's not something I like doing. It's not something I normally do, but yeah. Well, yeah, I got the weapons done. Let me go ahead and file, import. No. Broadcast miniatures, new, big sword. Now one other thing I'm going to do with the big sword is I'm going to shrink it a little. Not a huge amount, but just enough so it doesn't look quite as ridiculously large as it does on the other sword. Alright, now we're going to back view. And we're going to move it. First of all, we are going to rotate it negative 45 degrees because it needs to. And we're going to put this right there. And then we're gonna move a little bit further back and bring that back that way. Okay. Then we're going to parent it to the right hand. Okay, then we're going to import the small sword. This is what the small sword ended up like. It was carved from the tail spike of a dragon. As I said, in D&D terms, the short sword was a flame tongue, which basically means it was a hot sword. Whereas the other was a defender. And what a defender was is you could take some of its bonus to attack and shift it to armor class. Alright, now just for the sake of posing the hands, I'm going to give him 2 more short swords, just to pose the hands around. Okay, and as we can see, I need to tweak the positions of these just a little. Let's make sure. And Z forward a little bit here. Okay. And yeah. Okay. The next thing we're going to add the tunic skirt, the boot cuffs, and the ponytail. Okay. Now we're going to hide these bits of clothing and the swords. Oh yeah, I forgot to parent the sword. Okay. And we're going to pose him. Now he's not going to have the same pose that he had last time. So yeah. Okay, no problem, Graham. And I will be probably putting him up on Thingiverse too. Okay, now what I'm going to do, the old one, he's got a pretty dynamic pose, but it actually makes it harder for him to be transported because that sword sticks up so much higher than the holes I have. Oh, one other thing I have to do. You see, he's an elf. Yep, he so is. So, what I need to do now is come up with a pose where he's not sticking it straight up in victory and so high that I can't put him into my case, traveling case. So I'm thinking down, swords down, this one coming kind of forward, like he's advancing but preparing for battle. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and just rotate the hips a bit like that, and then whoops, out a little bit. And meanwhile I'm thinking about it, let's lock the rotation side to side on the forearms and calves, because your legs and arms don't bend like that. Now let's go ahead and grab that, and alright, now nope. Another thing is, if you'll notice, if you go back and look at that figure, the original figure, he's also on one of my older bases, original bases, which is basically a flat cylinder. That's not good. Let's go to left view, frame it. I'm gonna bend it down just a little bit more, and side to side it, and then down a little bit more. Okay. Now, back to perspective. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that sucker. And I'm going to pin translation and rotation, because I now have to grab this and pull him back a little, because he was not in any kind of balance for this. He needs to have that leg a bit more forward. And then just to make sure that I have the feet nice and properly flat, well, let me go ahead and grab this. Okay. Front view. And then just a little bit up. And a little more bend. There we go. I need to go ahead and import a base, just so that I have something that, you know, I can prove that he's on the base. So make sure his feet don't go off. So let's go ahead and import from the bases, one of the new ones. Let's put them on cracked earth. And drag it over this way. Let's put that foot as close to the edge as possible. Oh, and also we need to pull it back this way a bit. Okay, we're gonna and we're gonna bend the calf back a bit. Okay, and then let's go ahead and pin translation and rotation of that. So, that is the positioning of the hips and legs. He's advancing, but not necessarily hugely so. And we're going to select the chest and the abdomen. And we're going to kind of twist them a little bit this way. And the chest alone, we're going to bend back a bit and side to side a bit that way. Just to make sure that not only are they not parallel to the floor, they're not parallel to the hips. Okay. Now, the next thing we do is the arms. So the right shoulder will come forward and down a bit, but the arm will try to be almost straight down. So, I'm gonna bend it forward a little bit and down a little bit. And then actually, let's to make sure I don't. Yeah, still got it intersecting. Okay. Let's shrink the short sword just a little. So, actually, let me do one thing real quick while I'm thinking about it. Okay. Yeah, that's not going to work. Let's just go ahead and scale it. And then move it back into place the old-fashioned way. And then, again, because it's now a bit narrow in places, we're going to Object, Geometry, Add Push Modifier. Oh, that's way too much. So what we do is we go into General, Mesh Offset, or shrink that down. You'll notice that it's in fractions of 1, not in actual percent. So that's a 20% increase. And that's good enough for me. Okay, now let's turn on the others. The last thing to do is, well, first of all, unlike the other last time, he's not going to have his mouth open. I'm also going to tilt his head side to side a little bit. And the neck is going to twist that way. Now, we're going to File, Expand from Selected, the Ponytail. Okay, I just had something flash across the screen. Oh. 3D printing professor just tweeted. And then we're going to bend here. Okay. Now, that is our character's pose. And it took me an hour to get here because I had to refine those weapons. Oh well, it'll take me less than an hour to finish this. So the first thing we're going to do is hide our props and our base, and our clothing bits, and our ponytail. Oops. Okay. Fallon to body. Accept. Now let's make the hair. File. Export. Fallon to hair. The swords. Fallon to swords. I don't need to do anything to the small sword, and I just need to do some tweaking to the tail and claws of the long sword. Wow. Oh, that's something else we got to do. I forgot, since I can do this before. I'm going to make sure I've got the thighs twisted properly. Okay, the twist on this is 6.37, so negative 6.37. On the left thigh, ooh, 48.49. So that's negative 48.49. There we go, that's a lot better. And just a peek, yeah. File, export, Fallon to clothes. Oh, misspelled it. Clothes. And then we make the base visible and hide the boot cuffs and tunic. File, export, Fallon to base. Accept. And now we cut back over to ZBrush. Yay! And we import Fallon to body. We're also going to make sure we have symmetry off. We don't need it for this. And then once again we go through the subtools and add them. Append. Import. Hair. Append. Okay, and here we have our new the base for our new version of Valandar. Okay, let's hide the swords and the and that. Well, let's go ahead and make this visible and kick it up a couple points. Now, geometry, we're going to subdivide this until it's smooth. That's good enough. And now for the body. Before we do anything with the body, we're going to be tweaking the ears and the jawline. We're also going to be smoothing out the chest a bit. I didn't want to use the breastplate figure thingy because I didn't want to deal with that pokey outy bit. As it is, I will have a decent amount of bulge to deal with. Alright, I'll just make the neck a little bit smoother. Okay, now we're going to use the move tool to give him to fix those jaws. He is a bit more, yeah, as a fighter mage, well, a fighter Eldritch Knight. He has a bit more of a jawline than your typical elf. Okay. We're also going to go ahead and grab the center here, up between the ears, or up near the ears, and pull it down a bit. Then, with inflate, we're going to go ahead and reduce the intensity. Gonna kind of inflate the top of the ear just a little bit. And we're going to slash. Grab tablet. Reduce laser mouse, reduce intensity about there. And then we're going to cut in pretty deeply. We're also going to shrink this a little, and just a little bit of smoothing on this. Okay, frame out. Let's hide that ponytail. And now we're going to geometry. And then here we're going back to move, and we're going to be moving this to be closer. Actually, let's make it bigger. Grabbing this and moving it into the body. Okay, now we're going to merge the two together and Dynamesh. Okay, and we're going to smooth out the waist area. Well, let's bring that intensity back to 100. Okay, and now this area here. And here. Then make the mouse a little bit bigger, and let's just smooth out the whole butt. He's an elf, he don't need a butt. We also need to smooth out his back a bit. Once again, we don't need to worry about the musculature because it'll be under heavy armor and such. And then we're going to use the standard brush, making sure we have the stroke turned off. No, lazy mouse turned off. And let's make this about yay big. Reduce the intensity quite a bit. And just kind of add the underarm swell here. I say underarm swell, you know what I mean. It's the muscle group there. I horribly misrepresented my geo. Okay. Now the next thing is I need to make his chainmail. So I'm gonna hide bits here. No, not that one. In fact, yeah, let's go ahead and make it full sleeved. No. Alright, first things first, let's go ahead and just select all this. Now we're going to go in and do it manually. Local shift there. Okay. And what this is going to be, we're going to be marking off where a tunic would be. Okay. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, yeah, let's do it. Let's do this. Yeah, there we go. And now I'm going to add in the bottom of this. We're going to deselect around the rim. This is going to be so that I can make the chainmail that he wears. Yes, he may end up as an epic level character, but he will still be wearing chainmail. Why? Because he's a dex fighter more than he is a strength fighter. And unless he ends up getting like this super powerful enchanted full plate, he's not going to use heavy armor. Chain shirt is one of the heaviest that actually works well. And you can get the mithril version of it. Therefore, that's his preference. If he could get mithril shirt, that would be all she wrote for him. And I hate it when it moves on me. And so right now I'm erasing the mask as close to the edge as I can. Okay, good. That will be his mail. So what we do is we go down to extract. We're going to extract this at 0.001. Extract. Accept. draw to minimize, draw to minimize, hide this, and now we go through and hide the outer portions of this model because we're going to be inverting our selection here. Okay, masking, inverse, visibility, hide points, geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. Now we go to Z remesher. We're going to hit it once, and again, we're going to be putting this aside again because what we're going to be doing does not accept it, or does not need it. Okay, let's frame in. We're now going to go to half, turn off adapt, bing, bing, and that's about as good as we're going to get without getting too low. So now we're going to export this as Wallenhauberg. We're going to open up UV Mapper, or UV Layout is the name. UV Layout is a program whose whole purpose is mapping. And 3D printing home, meshes, pre-sculpt minis, broadcast miniatures, new, and you scroll down, Wallenhauberg, load. Now let's go ahead and mark off where these will be coming off. Oh, I see a problem. And then under arm, split, drop. Now this arm. See. Enter. And once again, we're gonna select, split, drop. Now we have the front and back of our Hauberg. Drop, drop. UV view. Now, that's good. That's good. Now you notice that the edges we cut are green, whereas the edges that are naturally open are blue. So we're going to make sure that these are blue facing down. By the same token, these we want upright. Hit F to give them a basic flatten, then we can select them and optimize. Yeah, that probably looked kind of funky. Now we go to move, scale, rotate, and align to the axes. Didn't quite do it, so I'm going to alter it just a bit. Okay. Now we close that, and we're going to pack. Best, give it a little bit of bleed, no space between them. Pack all. And it'll move and try and find a brute force solution which is good enough for government work, good enough for what we need. Auto fit off. And then we're going to save all. And it says save done. Dismiss. So now we come back over to here. Let's turn off that. We're going to import Wallenhauberg. And it looks like there's no change. Except there is. We're going to make the body visible, by the way, because we're going to need to geometry. Divide, divide, divide. Divide, divide. We want it as high poly as possible. And then we're going to go down to deformation. We're going to inflate it just a bit until the majority of it. That's good enough. Now, before we do anything else, we're going to duplicate the subtool and hide it. I'll explain why in just a minute. Now, we go to Surface, Noise. And this is going to be for our chainmail. UV, alpha on, and we're going to alphas and that revised male map. Then we're going to drop the noise strength to 0, the male strength to maximum. Yeah. And then we're going to shrink the mask. I'm going to shrink the scale until it looks like it's probably going to be good enough. We need a little bit bigger. Well. Okay, we can probably make it a little bit smaller. 0.19. That'll do. Click OK. And then we go to masking. And we're going to, oh, sorry, we go back to surface. We're going to mask by noise. And then under masking, we're going to invert. This is going to make our actual look. So we're going to deform, we're going to inflate ever so slightly. We're going to stop it. We're then going to inflate again. The reason for this is this will thicken the links as well as, oh, that's too much, as you can see. Yeah. Okay. Then we're going to masking and inverting the mask. And we're going to deflate just a little. Okay. And there we have our chainmail hauberk. Now, the next thing we're going to do is cap it. Geometry. Modify topology, close holes. You notice it's going to take a few. And people is quiet. Why isn't people talking? While it's trying to do that, let's go ahead and come back here just so I can chat with y'all for a little bit. Alright. What happens if I hit escape? For anyone that's keeping count, that's twice I've just crashed ZBrush. Yay! So while it's loading, I'll be in here chatting. Okay, the plasmal figure has a rather broad tabard. You can only really see the chainmail on the right underarm and on the sides of the hips. It really doesn't advertise that he's wearing armor. And he's got bracers. So we're just going to go ahead and, you know, again, we got smaller swords. We're going to go ahead and we're going to give him a narrower hauberk, a narrower tabard. and deal with it that way. And fortunately, it saved the whole Z project, which means it has everything. And just in case, because it still says extract 0, we're going to go ahead and re-import the Hauberk. So now it says Valen Hauberk. And we're going to subdivide it a few times. And we are going to then inflate it until it covers up most of the parts of the body. Yeah. No, that didn't do it. Okay. There we go. Now, we go to Surface, Noise, UV. I'm going to zoom out so I can make sure I can see it at miniature scale. And Alpha. And then let me go ahead and pop back in here. Yeah, that would help, wouldn't it? No. Yeah, there we go. And import the male. Noise to 0, strength -5, and then we choose that scale of 0.19. Yeah, that should do. Okay. Now we go to mask by noise, masking inverse, deformation, inflate. And then again at 9. And then masking invert, deformation, -9. No, too much. And that was too much for the 9. So there we go. Masking inverse, deformation, negative inflate. Okay. Frame. Then we're going to go back up to geometry, modify topology, save as, just in case, so that we don't have too much of a problems. Broadcast miniatures, new. Yeah. And now we're going to cap holes. And they cap beautifully. Yay! We're going to use move, rather large, to kind of pull out this area because they're kind of poking. You can see the chest kind of poking through there. Okay, goody goody. That is our Hauberk. And that part of the project came across. That's probably the riskiest part right there. Okay, now what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to hide the Hauberk. And actually, no, we're not going to hide it. We're going to keep it on, but we're going to use, no, not that one, transparency, so that we can draw on trim. Okay, so we're going to draw on this trim here. Uh-huh. Okay, and then we're going to draw the port here on the wrist. Okay, and then on the bottom, no, let's hide this because we're going to do it this way. Okay. Alrighty. Let's erase that right there because that's too close. And we're going to go ahead and okay, frame out. And now we're going to make the hallmark visible again, just so we can make sure that we're pulling out these edges thick enough. Extract, we're going to try a 0.03. Yes. Accept. Draw. Draw. And then geometry, we're going to dynamesh it at 256. And then we're going to subdivide it a couple times. And then let's see what happens if we Z-remesh it. Because this will help smooth out some of these rough edges like down at the top of the bottom trim. Okay. And half. And one more. What the heck? No. Okay. Okay, so next thing that we're doing is we're hiding the mail. We don't need it there. And we're going to make the belt. No. Okay, let's put the belt down here. And as before, this 0.03 should do it. Extract, accept, draw, draw. But we're going to do slightly different. We're going to Dynamesh it. Oh wait, wrong one. We need to be on that. Yeah. We're going to Dynamesh it 256, and then we're going to subdivide it a couple times, and then we're going to inflate it just a little. Okay, there we go. That's the belt. Now, going back to the subtool, going back to the body, we're going to hide everything. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the tabard. The tabard is going to be very simple. We're going to make sure we've got lazy mesh turned on for the tabard's masking, and we're just going to grab and come down. Okay. And then coming down the back. Then we're going to turn off Lazy Mouse and just start filling this in. Yep. And I'm going to erase a good part of this. Oh. Erase that. Because I'm then going to, after I mask this and extract it, I'm going to grab it and drag it down a bit so that it's longer than the hauberk. Okay, I got plenty of time. Okay, frame out. Make the hauberk and that visible. And the belt, because of what's going to happen next. We're then going to extract at 0.04. Accept, draw, Then we're going to use the Move Topological tool. And we're going to make it big. Pretty big. Okay, and down a bit more. There. Now the next thing we're going to do is shrink this, well, this quite a bit, and grab and pull in towards the belt as much as we can. Because the next thing after this is pulling the belt out. Okay. Okay. That's that. That's the tabard. And for the most part, the clothing is in place. However, it is not number one, we don't have the details. Number two, we don't have further things, because one of the things I really need to do with this is I need to refine it so that it has further things that an adventurer would have. Alright, one of the things we've got to do is go to the belt. It's also, I also need to do the hair, but that's beside the point. The belt, we're going to add in a buckle. Oh yeah, I gotta... Okay, right about here. No, that didn't work. Let's check the depth. Too high. Okay. Now let's move humongoid. There. And then we're gonna shrink it. And as you can see, I'm trying to get this fitted to the location of the actual belt. Okay. There, he's got a belt buckle. Now the next thing is we're going to add on some more of these belt pieces. He's going to have a pouch right back here. And shrink this, pull it out a little. Okay, a pouch over here. Oh, there we go. Wait, why did I do that? I need to break this off. Subtool split unmasked parts, because that needs to get mesh smoothed. So subdivide 1, 2, 3. The next thing that we need to add, let's see if there's anything else that really would work on the belt stuff. Well, maybe a potion for like a potion of healing or something. So we go back to the belt. No, not there. We need it on the actual body. And we're going to draw it out like that. Okay, and then with the move tool, move that against the belt. Yeah, there we go. Draw. Oh, no, because we're going to split masked parts. Okay. Right. Now we're going to go ahead and open up where the hair is, and let's skip that up a few. By the way, let's move this up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mark off where the hair is. We're going to give him a similar hairstyle, because this is our same boy. Shrink this down. Okay, good. And we're going to mark where the hair is. It's going to come down pretty far in the front, just because, you know, it is a sideburn. Not so much a sideburn, but as where the hair begins for a sideburn. And then we're going to follow this around to where the ponytail is. Then we're going to shrink the mouse just a bit. And we're going to clean up these sideburns. Okay, and then we're going to extract that at 0.02. 0.02 because we don't need it that thick. Except, I'm going to draw it in. We're going to use the move brush, make it bigger. I'm going to pull it down like that so that it kind of goes into where the end of the ponytail is. Then we're going to dynamesh it, not deform, geometry, at 128. And merge down. We're going to subdivide it a couple times. Delete lower. And dynamesh it again. Then we're going to shrink it, the mouse, smooth out here. And then here. We're going to duplicate this. And on this one, we're going to subdivide it a few times. And then we're going to make our hair tie. Okay. Extract this at 0.1. We're then going to delete the second one. Okay. On him, we're going to remove the shading. Then we have our hair to work on. I'm going to subdivide it quite a bit. Okay. And we go back to slash. Now this one, since I've had to restart since then, I've got to remember to turn off lace mouse, drop it down to about 14. And that should be good. And now, we just start doing our actual curving in the hair. Carving in the hair. And he's going to be a bit more wavy than, or naturally wavy, than is shown on the original version. So then we're going to... Okay. Now we're going to just make our little waves in the ponytail. These are the overall locks, so alright, now we're going to switch to add and drop it down to 9. What we're going to do is we're going to come up this way, down, come back up this way, come down this way. And then coming up, and then just a little bit here. And in the front, we're going to give a few sharp peaks just to really catch those brushes. And to really emphasize the shape of the hair. Okay. Now we come down and we're doing the same thing. Let's turn off the hairband. Come from under there and over. Okay. And that's our hair. So before we add our wrinkles, we have this. So the first wrinkles we're going to add are actually going to be the leg wrinkles for the breeches. We have not a lot of time left. Go ahead and hide the... yeah. So we're going to go back to clay buildup with the round alpha 1. We're going to make it about the size that we'd normally have our leg wrinkles be. A little bit smaller. And we've got to remember to just kind of build up a little bit because this is slightly baggier pants than what the original version had. It's Captain Tight Pants. Yeah, there we go. Now this one's going to be a little bit more difficult because we got the whole problem of the wrinkle in the back. We're kind of drawing in the basic shape of what these wrinkles might look like. We're also got to remember that it's not going to look exactly like that. Okay. Now we go to slash Z sub 14. We're going to kind of draw in where these wrinkles are. And then okay. Now we're going to go ahead and add in these wrinkles. Which not quite as difficult because we don't have the extra complication of the outside me. Smooth that. Okay. And now add. We're going to lower the intensity to 10. We're going to just add in on the bottom of each of these wrinkles. Exception being these right here. Okay. Now we come over here and burp. Add in these wrinkles. And it shouldn't be too much longer before it's time to start working on the rest of the body. So, yeah. Now before we do any more, like to the tabard, which is the only other thing that needs, well, the tabard and the feet need wrinkles, and then I need to detail the hands. And then finally detail the hilts of the sword. There we go. Actually, let's go ahead and do the feet first before we do the tabard. Feet don't need as much. What I'm going to do with them, I'm going to break up in that same seam that I've had, that I used back on the sword. And I'm going to draw on a seam down the back of each foot. First of all, it's too small. And it's not intense enough. That was way too deep. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Okay, and then I'm going to use Orb Cracks 2. No, go into Slash. And we're going to just draw in some issues with the toe. Now realize that this may not actually come out well. But it might. This might be a bit... Oh! Once again, at the very least, it'll be enough to get the impression across. There we go. Alright, now the tabard. And once again, we're going to start off with the subtract. We're going to start off. Actually, we better start off with the add. Yeah. Now we're going to add the subtract. I'm going to subtract underneath the bottom of these wrinkles. Notice that we're going this kind of, this is a very subtle version. it'll show up, but it's subtle. Okay, and now the back, same way. We're gonna add in, oh, there. Oh. Yep. And then we're going to switch to subtract, and once again draw underneath these. You can make different materials look different by the way you handle their wrinkles. In this case, this is more of a softer, less rigid material than what was used in the pants. Okay. And you can kind of tap very lightly, smooth out. Okay. Now if we frame out, see it's kind of hanging a bit straighter. We're going to make the mices bigger and weaker. And all we're going to add in here is okay. Now we're going to add in some wrinkles over the shoulder, and that'll be about it. And then one, maybe a little bit of a cut in here. Yeah. And then just one more. Hide the hair. And then just kind of bring it around. Okay. Now, we detail the hands and the sword and we're done. Let's do it with the sword first. Alright, gotta go to Z sub to draw on the divisor between the feathers. Oh, shnikes, I forgot. we've got to dynamesh them. Shinju, over here. Come on. Good girl. Sorry about that. Actually, no, we don't want to use slash. We want to use orb cracks for this. No, not orb cracks. Orb cracks too. And shrink it. And make sure that it does not have lazy mouse on. There we go. Whoop. Now we need laser mouse on for this. And basically we're just drawing in the feathers here. Yes, feathers. This is supposed to be kind of a bird's tail here. I hate it when it does this. Can't see it because of all the stuff in the way. Okay. Then we're going to come in from here. And then we're going to, once again, also, where this one's only going to be down the middle. Then we're going to use inflate. I'm going to draw on some swollen areas here, here, and here, because these will be the sort of the knuckles of the bird. Okay. Now let's go ahead and make everything visible again. And I mean everything. And at this point, the only thing left to do is the hands. So we need to bring this to... Whoop. A little bit too big. There we go. go for the thumbs first. Just because of that usual problem of the rigging flaw. Right in here. Okay, and right in here. Alright, that'll do. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, and draw on the backs of the hands. And smooth them out a bit. And it's time for knuckles. And I don't mean the echidna. I say that way too often. I never even played the game. Okay, so one hand done. Now the other one. I will admit, I don't think I can top the original's pose for dynamism. But it's not great for carrying in a miniatures case. And then I smooth it out. And knuckles. Okay. The swords are more detailed. The mail is more natural and easier to see. The base actually has a texture to it. And all in all, this better represents... This better represents my current style. So, let's go ahead and start merging down. And here we have the updated Valendar the Red. Okay. And now, Geometry Dynamesh. And it is, after all said and done, 3.766 million polygons. And we all know what that means. That means it's too high poly. So Z plugin, Decimation Master, and because of the male, I think I'm going to go for 150,000 triangles. Whee! Well, I'll say this. My drapery is... I hate it when it does that. My drapery is not the best. Drapery is something that there are entire multiple classes of for drapery at art schools. You know, we're talking, you could have an entire full credit course on nothing but the drapery styles of one specific Renaissance artist or Greek region. Okay, it's ridiculous how much there is. And it does that. When it does computing, please wait. It reached. Actually being played was in 2nd edition, back when you had to split half of your experience points between them. And he ended up being at one point 17th level fighter, 17th level wizard, I think. It may have been 16. God blast it! Okay. Now let's try it one last time. I hope one last time. And transparent. And clinging to the subject. In marble. Now you hear the phrase, the old masters. Until you see something like that, it doesn't click. Computing, please wait. Dadgummit! Fuck you. Anyway. Oh, please, please, please work this time. Oh, thank God it's working this time. And yep, there we go. Frame out. And here we have our finished 100,070 polygon Valandar the Red on a cracked earth base. Okay, so we go ahead and we export as Valandar Mark II. Yeah, I hate it when it does that. So, Snuffle Kitty. She places her forehead against her finger because she wants to snuggles. Anyway, that was me recreating Valandar. I will be posting a picture of side by side. You can see a difference in the styles almost certainly. And then tomorrow I'll print out the new version, and sometime in between the giants I'll get around to painting it. And one thing about that is only 2 people are getting to see this. I got Argus painted. Yes, Argus, the herdsman of Hera. And I have Farragut and Cormoran printed and primed. With Farragut, I've already started in on his face. Not too much longer. Mm-hmm. Oh. Oh, and I also showed these at the beginning of the show, and I don't think you saw them. At least, not both of you. To go with the Bassaquan, the stone builders. Terrain piece of standing stones. Now, I still have a lot of support material to clean off on the underside. But hey. In your class, Stephen? What do you teach? I took Latin in high school. My Latin teacher was what can only be called a female chauvinist sow. She honestly believed that it was impossible for a male under the age of 18 who did not learn Latin as his native language to learn Latin. She graded the males' papers 5 times harder than the females. Really? Greco-Roman and world mythology? You saw Argus, right? Say hello to Polyphemus, complete with burned out eye socket. Now, here's one for you. Even I didn't know this until relatively recently. Did you know that after the Odyssey, Polyphemus actually wooed a nymph named Galatea? And depending on the source, either completely and utterly failed because he was this big ugly cyclops, or succeeded and sired a race of giant cannibals on Galatea. No relation to the statue girl. Also, did you notice that on the back of his right forearm was a sheep skull? Why would he have a sheep skull on his forearm? The reason he'd have a sheep skull on his forearm was because when Odysseus and his crew escaped, they strapped themselves on the underside of sheep. So as Polyphemus was stealing each one, there was nobody riding them. So upset that they escaped, he killed one of the sheep and strapped its head to his forearm. You let them escape. Pop. Also, since Argus is supposed to be a cow herd, but a giant herding cattle is like humans herding chihuahuas, I decided that his herd was comprised of dire Cape buffalo, dire Cape buffalo, 8 feet at the shoulder. Yeah, I got plenty of extras with each figure. So anyway, that should be it for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and hold up my hand as usual, count from 5 to 1, and when I get to 1, say something goofy and sign out. So, that will be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sometimes I tell jokes about the elements, but only periodically.